Hello, in this video I will show you how to balance chemical equations. Now let's start it off with an example. Okay, potassium iodide react with chlorine, gives you potassium chloride plus iodine. Now, how do you write the chemical equation for this? Chemical reaction? Now, the first thing is you need to write the individual chemical formula correctly first. For example, potassium iodide. So potassium iodide, this is an organic compound. So potassium from your periodic table is K. Iodine is I. Now we need to know what is the formula for the potassium ion. Okay, potassium ion, as you know, potassium is from group 1 of the periodic table. Okay, this is potassium here, and since it is in group 1, it will form ion of charge 1+. Okay, so your potassium ion would be K+. Now for iodine is in group 7. Okay, this is your iodine, group 7, and group 7 element would form ions with the charge of 1 negative. Okay, so your iodine will form an ion by the name of iodide ion, and the charge is 1 minus. So if we join these two together, the chemical formula for potassium iodide will become Ki. Okay, you know the cross product, which we discussed about it in how to write chemical formula for ionic compound. Okay, there is a 1 minus, there is a 1 plus here, so 1 1, and then you cross multiply, and that would give you K1I1, which is Ki. Okay, so potassium iodide, the formula is Ki. Then how about chlorine? Now chlorine is in group 7. Now one thing that I want you to know is for group 7 elements at room temperature and pressure, they will all exist in molecular form. In other words, fluorine at room temperature and pressure will exist as F2. Okay, F2, this one would be Cl2, this would be Br2 bromine, iodine would be I2, and acetylene would be At2. Okay, this is one of the characteristics for group 7 elements. They all exist at room temperature and pressure as molecular form, meaning F2, Cl2, Br2, I2, and At2. So likewise for chlorine, it exists as Cl2. Okay, then after that, potassium chloride. So same thing for potassium chloride, it is an ionic compound, a metal and a non-metal. So K and Cl. Then after that, you have to figure out the charge for potassium ion, which is K+. From earlier we look at it, K+. And then for chloride ion, the charge is -1 minus, because chlorine is in group 7, so it will form an ion, which in this case is chloride ion, and the charge of the ion is 1 negative. Okay, so potassium chloride, the chemical formula is KCl. Then after that, iodine is in group 7, and just like I told you already, at room temperature and pressure, all the group 7 elements exist in molecular form. So in this case, I2. Okay, so now it is time for you to balance the chemical equation. So before you balance the chemical equation, each substance chemical formula must be correct. All this, they must be correct before you balance it. Okay, so over here you can see Cl2, there are 2 Cl on the left hand side. So on the right hand side there is only 1, so you have to put a 2 here. When you put a 2 like this, there are 2K on the right hand side, so on the left hand side there should be 2K as well. So double check again. On the left hand side 2K, right hand side 2K, left hand side 2I, right hand side 2I, left hand side 2Cl, right hand side 2Cl. So this chemical equation is balanced. Now let's look at the second example. Now the second example is magnesium plus hydrochloric acid gives you magnesium chloride plus hydrogen. Okay, so how do you write the chemical equation for this reaction? Now first thing, magnesium. Now magnesium is a metal. All metal, they just exist in atomic form. So magnesium is Mg. Then hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid, the chemical formula is HCl. Okay, hydrochloric acid is HCl. Another 2 common acids would be sulfuric acid, which is H2SO4, as well as nitric acid, HNO3. Now these 3 acids, hydrochloric acid, nitric acid and sulfuric acid, the chemical formula you must remember. Now let's look at magnesium chloride. Now magnesium chloride, it's an ionic compound. Because magnesium is a metal, chlorine is a non-metal. So you have to write down the formula for the ion. Magnesium is Mg. What is the charge for magnesium ion? Magnesium is in group 2. So group 2 element would form an ions of charge 2+. So your Mg is 2+. How about for chlorine? Chlorine is in group 7, and all the group 7 elements would form ions of charge 1-. So your Cl is 1-. Then after that, cross multiply, that will become, if you cross multiply, that will become Mg, the 1 will be here, Mg1. Okay, you don't write the 1 here. Okay, there is no 1, you don't write the 1 here, and then the 2 will come down, become Cl2. So it's MgCl2. There is nothing here. Okay, MgCl2 plus hydrogen. Hydrogen exists in molecular form, so hydrogen is actually H2. So this is the chemical equation, but it is not balanced yet. So again, before you start balancing, make sure the individual substance chemical formula are all correct. They are all correct. Now it's the time to balance it. On the right hand side, you see there are 2H, 2 hydrogen, 2 chlorine. So on the left hand side, 1 hydrogen, 1 chlorine, so you just put a 2 there. Okay, so just double check. On the left hand side 1 Mg, on the right hand side 1 Mg, on the left hand side 2H, on the right hand side 2H, on the left hand side 2Cl, on the right hand side 2Cl. So this chemical equation is balanced. Okay, now let's look at the third example. Okay, the third example is carbon react with oxygen to give you carbon monoxide. So how do you write the chemical equation, a balanced chemical equation for this reaction? So one by one, carbon from your periodic table, it is C. Oxygen is in molecular form, so it is O2. And then carbon monoxide, this one you need to remember the formula. Carbon monoxide is CO, just like that. Then after that, it's time to balance it. On the left hand side, you can see that there are 2 O. On the right hand side, 1 O. So you put a 2 here. When you put a 2 here, on the right hand side, there are 2 carbons. So on the left hand side, there is only 1 carbon. So you need to put a 2 here to become 2 carbons. And this equation is balanced. And then the last example. Now the last example is like this. Propane. Okay, propane, I give you the formula for propane is C3H8. Now this propane burns in air to produce carbon monoxide and water. So how do you write a balanced chemical equation for this reaction? So first thing, write propane. Propane give you the chemical formula already, C3H8. Burns in air. Burns in air means that it would combine, it would react with oxygen. Produces carbon monoxide and water. Water is H2O, carbon monoxide is CO. Carbon monoxide, like here, carbon monoxide, mono means 1, oxide means oxygen, 1 oxygen, therefore is O. Okay, so how do you balance it? If you look at here, on the left hand side, you can see that there are 3 carbon. On the right hand side, 1 carbon, so you have to put a 3 here. Then after that, on the left hand side, you can see that there are 8 hydrogen. So on the right hand side, only 2 hydrogen. How do you make 2 hydrogen to become 8 hydrogen? You have to put a 4. So that 4 times 2 hydrogen becomes 8 hydrogen. How about the oxygen? Now on the left hand side, there are 2 oxygen. On the right hand side, how many oxygen? 3 oxygen plus 4 oxygen. So 7 oxygen. 7 oxygen on the right hand side. On the left hand side, only 2 oxygen. How do you make 7 oxygen become 2 oxygen? There is one way to do it, is to put a fraction like this, 7 over 2. Because 7 over 2 times 2 oxygen would give you 7 oxygen. Okay, just like your maths, this part cancel off, so becomes 7 oxygen. So if you do it like this equation is actually balanced. But a balanced chemical equation should not have fractions. So what you need to do is you multiply by 2. That means the left hand side and the right hand side of the chemical equation, you multiply by 2, and that would give you 2C3H8 plus 2 times it. The 2 at the bottom will be gone, so becomes 7O2 to give you 6CO plus 8 H2O, because 4 times 2 is 8, 3 times 2 is 6, and this would be your balanced chemical equation. Now again, you can download the worksheet how to balance chemical equation and then try on your own, and you can always refer to this video for answers. That's all for how to balance chemical equation.